Greetings, brothers and sisters. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Witches of the Moon, another week of Witches of the Moon. My name is Eva Maria. I'm your Monday hostess for this season. Sorry for the late upload. Things have been a little crazy. You know this if you've been watching. So this week, our topic is going to be using other people's spells versus writing our own. And this is season 7, week 6, if I'm not mistaken. And what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to kind of weigh some pros and cons with you. Overall, I'm going to say there is no right or wrong. I don't believe that magical practice is something that is sort of like one size fits all. Let's weigh some pros and cons here. The first pro that comes to mind with using other people's spells, using pre-written spells, is that it's convenient. It's really convenient. You don't have to sit and brainstorm and put as much thought into it. You have to maybe find a spell that feels, that resonates with you, that feels that, I can't talk. Oh my God. You do have to search for a spell that feels like it would do what you're looking for it to do. It's, I think, much more convenient to just use a spell that's been formulated already than to create one from scratch. Another pro to using other people's spells or pre-written spells is that they can always be tweaked. They can always be changed. Substitutions can be made. Granted, it would certainly help if you had a little bit of knowledge in terms of like correspondences and such. For example, if you're substituting an herb or an oil or a stone or something, it would help if you had sort of a little bit of knowledge of correspondences so that you could use something else in place of what you don't have that does the same thing. I always do encourage others when I tell people about various spells, recipes, whatever, things that I create, on my own channel on Eva's House of Spirit. I do encourage viewers to not be afraid to substitute, just find something you have that does the same thing. So yeah, that's definitely another pro, And I think the third major pro that comes to mind, and I'm sure there are other pros, is that many times when you find a spell that's pre-written or that's someone else's, usually, not always, but usually they're tried and true. They've been used before, they've been tried out. Success has been usually had, not in every case. There are people that will just write things and publish them online or wherever and just be like, oh, here's a spell for this. You do have to, I think, sort of trust your gut and look at the person's track record. Who are they? Has anybody else maybe used the spell and given a testimonial, or the things like that. Go with your best judgment and your intuition and your instincts on if you're going to use a spell. Do you trust that it is very likely tried and true? If you're using, for example, a traditional spell working from a particular path, like maybe hoodoo or something, it's based in history. People have done certain things in certain ways for a long time because they have found success with it, great success. So those are the pros that mainly come to the fore of my mind, and now I'd like to speak on the cons of using other people's or pre-written or preconceived spells. The first con is that it's not personal to you. You may not feel a connection to someone else's spell, or to a pre-written spell, or to a traditional spell, or what have you. It may not resonate with you. I personally recommend that if you're going to do a work and you're going to use some spell that's pre-written, preconceived, I feel that it should feel powerful to you, and it should resonate with you, and the ingredients in it should make sense to you, and the actions taken in the spell should make sense to you. I do feel that you should have some understanding of the purpose of the actions and the ingredients and so on and so forth. Sometimes if a spell is not personal to you, like if you didn't write it, sometimes when it's some other spell from somewhere else, you may not feel that personal connection to it. You may not necessarily. I mean, it's possible to feel a connection to someone else's work, but that's not always the case. Another major con that comes to mind is that lifestyle is definitely a factor. The timing or ingredients or the practices involved might not be convenient to your lifestyle. For example, if you get up very, very early in the morning to go to work or to go to school or to do something, or if you have certain habits, they may say do this spell at such and such a time. Maybe they recommend you do it at a time or a planetary hour when you really need to be in bed, or you really need to be driving to wherever you're going or doing something else, because that's just the way your lifestyle is. Or maybe the ingredients might not be local to your area, or maybe it may call for something you don't believe in using. For example, there are some people that do not believe in using, let's say animal curios as an example. So if there's a spell that mentions using animal curios, that's clearly not going to suit someone who doesn't feel comfortable with that. So yeah, preconceived spells, pre-written spells, other people's work, that kind of stuff may not always suit you. It may not always suit your life, the things you believe in. Now, let's look at writing spells for yourself. Some pros. Writing spells for yourself, your own spells, they are personal. And some would say that because they are personal to you, because you conceive of them, because you put yourself and your energy and your feeling into them, some people would say that they would be stronger. To a degree, I would agree with that. In fact, I think to a decent degree. Now, that doesn't mean I'm leaning away from using other people's spells. I've used preconceived spells many times. I do like the deep personal element to writing our own spells. Also, as I said before, where there was that con with preconceived spells not always suiting your lifestyle, there's a pro in writing your own spells in that, you can design them around your personal living situation and your beliefs and what you have. You can use ingredients in your spell that are readily available to you. You can time your spell at times of the day that are convenient to you, given whatever it is that you do. You can create the spell to contain practices, actions that would not be difficult for you, or would not feel strange to you, or would not, make you feel a little self-conscious or whatever. You can design your spells to suit your situation. I think that's an intense pro when it comes to writing your own spells. Another pro is that the symbolism. There's meaning in symbols, but they are unique to each person. For example, I've said this before and I'll say it again. To me, a dog may represent a good mother, or maybe a loyal friend or something like that. But to somebody else, a dog may represent something very frightening and horrible. So if I, let's say, was to write a spell with my symbolism in mind, using, let's say, some practice or some connection to like the dog animal spirit, and I suggested that to somebody else and they tried to use it, but they personally were afraid of dogs, I don't think that spell would suit them very well. So having symbolism be very unique to you and having like connection to what you design your spell around, the items and the actions and so on and so forth, the symbolism in them being so unique to you, I think is very important. And again, your emotions, your focus, your thoughts, all these things, they're unique to you. And the more connected you are, the more personal it is. I do think it is powerful, more powerful perhaps than were you to, I guess, use a preconceived spell. But that's not to say that if a preconceived spell resonates with you, that it wouldn't do well for you. I would not say that at all. Now, cons. Writing your own spells is not necessarily always very convenient. It takes more effort. It requires, to a degree, a good foundation, in metaphysical understanding, correspondences, and understanding like how magic generally works. Having some experience helps, I think. Not to say that people that are new to the fold can't create spells that wouldn't work amazingly. I'm sure that's possible. But I just think that it helps to know what you're doing, because I think you'll knock it out of the park much quicker, easier, with less, effort. And that brings me to another con, and that con is that oftentimes self-written spells, they are a process of experimentation, trial, and error. As a chaos magician, one of the 6 core principles of chaos is to strive for technical excellence. Therefore, oftentimes when we formulate spells, we will write them down, we will tweak them, fine-tune them, keep, working and reworking them until we get them very precise and just really good. We will re-examine, for example, well, what results did I get from doing this? Okay, maybe if I changed this or improved that or took that out or added this in, I would get better results. And we sort of like fine-tune it, like you would fine-tune, for example, a recipe if you were cooking or baking something, to make it just like the best that it could be. Well, personally written spells often are like that. It really is a process. It really is a fine-tuning process. Sometimes, occasionally, you will knock it out of the park the first time around, but that's not always the case. Some people do get dismayed or upset when they try a self-created spell the first time and it doesn't quite give them what they're looking for. But what I would say to that is, it didn't suck, but you just need to fine-tune it. And that's why keeping witches' notebooks is very important, I think. Writing down things such as, like, what day of the week did you do it on? What time of day was it? What was the moon phase? Was there any astrological or, astronomical events going on? What was the weather like? What color candle did you use if you used a candle? Or what other ingredients did you use? What kind of practice did you do? Like, how did you carry it out? Write down these details and, any kind of words you said and things you felt or visualized or what have you. Write the details of what you did and when you did it and all that kind of jazz. Because afterward, when you get your results, if they're great, you can recreate the spell. If they're not so great, you can go back and re-examine maybe what you could have done a little differently. In hindsight, was there something that maybe kind of made the flow of things a little wonky, or like, you know what I mean? Like, you're fine-tuning, you're taking what you did and you're revisiting it, and you're in your witch's notebook, you're editing it so that it becomes the best that it could be. And finally, another con that really sticks out in my mind with self-written spells is that if you're very new to practice, you might not necessarily know where to begin with writing your own spells, or you might not feel secure in your work. So if that is the case, I am not going to say to you that there's anything wrong with using preconceived spells. In the beginning, I used to use preconceived spells like all the time in the beginning of my exploration into study and practice with the occult and with the metaphysical and all that kind of stuff. I didn't automatically start writing my own spells, start conceiving of my own things. That sort of built up over time. Now I often write my own. Occasionally I will use preconceived work, but usually when I use preconceived work I will tweak it. The point, however, is that there are pros and cons to both, to using preconceived spells, other people's spells, spells from elsewhere, or to using spells that we've created ourselves. I have not listed all of the pros and cons. These are just some that happen to occur to me readily. As I said earlier, there is no right and wrong. It's not like one is better than the other. I think here I just wanted to kind of illustrate for you that there are pros and cons to each, and it really is a matter of preference and choice. So, yeah, I guess these are my thoughts on using other people's spells versus using ones that we've written ourselves. And I look forward to seeing what everyone else here at Witches of the Moon will bring forth in their videos this week. I think this is going to be a very good topic to explore. And I welcome you all, as always, to chime in on the conversation in the comments. Not just here in my video, or on my video, I should say, but also, in the comments of the videos that my fellow hosts will bring forth. And with that said, I'm going to wish you all blessed be an Ashe. You all have a great night. And until our next exchange, until next time, you all stay awesome. And bye-bye for now.